I am fully convinced, however, that there is no such thing as a basically good or basically bad actor. There are confident actors and anxious actors. There are selfish actors and generous actors. There are modest actors and showy actors. There are enthusiastic actors and reluctant actors. There are clever actors and plodding actors. Just as there are all these kinds of people in any profession and indeed in life. Anyone at any time can be transcendently wonderful or irredeemably rotten, depending on many factors, not necessarily talent or intentions alone. And in any case, acquiring and nurturing the virtues that go to define an honest craftsman is not an end in itself, and nor should it be considered a great achievement. Okay, I won't walk out this time. Next time. As I said, acquiring the qualities of honesty should not be considered a huge achievement, but unfortunately we live in times where an actor being punctual and speaking on cue is considered good acting. And mastering the use of glycerine, of course, can put you into the league of great. However, being somewhat unsure of what it is that defines honesty or dishonesty in a craft, and being unable to define that, I will pose some questions which I myself have been chewing upon for a while, and they concern the craft of acting as well. And I must underline that I consider acting a craft, not an art. And I'm convinced there is nothing even remotely metaphysical about it. Is an honest craftsman someone who makes a big public display of worshipping the tools of his trade? One who is dutiful and punctual, but creates predictable, time-tested stuff, expending only conditioned reflexes and investing a minimum of himself? Or is he one who makes a statement, who goes perhaps against the grain in order to create what he considers significant? Or one who tries to imbue his creation with beauty while retaining its functionality? Or is an honest craftsman one for whom creation is all that matters? I do not know. And I cannot with any certainty claim to have the answers to these questions. So I think I will try to dwell instead on what exactly I feel the responsibility of the actor is in the larger scheme of things, and how much it is possible for an actor to do. Whether an actor acts merely to showcase his entertaining abilities, or whether there is a less spacious reason for his work, and whether an actor can be assessed independently of the work he chooses to do, are questions which I think answer themselves. Why an actor who performs splendidly in one job can be disastrous in another is quite simply because his output being largely dependent on factors over which he has no control, the actor can never be better than the job he is in. So, is submitting to the conditions he finds himself in the quality of honesty in an actor? Or is trying to guide them the way he feels they should go the honest thing to do? I suppose in that case, it would depend on the respective stature of the people involved. So is a call taken on the integrity or otherwise of a person who is conveying another's ideas likely to be an objective one? And in that case, I suppose the assessment must hinge upon the actor's choice of work and the conviction or otherwise with which he delivers this kind of message to become a mouthpiece for such ideas. Crying is infectious, just like laughter is, or yawning is. And in any case, the audience does not care to distinguish between real tears and glycerine-induced weeping. So whether an actor is emotionally honest or not is not something the audience can judge, and frankly, something the audience does not really care about. Even fake tears can produce an emotional resonance in the listener. Mr. Ray, some 40 years ago, expressed the wish that our audiences should be more demanding. But as we can all see today, our audiences seem even more dumbed down than ever and fully satisfied with the brain-dead efforts that pass off as films a lot of the time in our country. And I'm not blaming the audiences. I'm laying the blame squarely on the people who make films. Because this state of affairs is the result of a very concerted effort by determined speculators whose only objective in making a movie is to multiply their investments 100-fold by milking the audience's gullibility and forgiving nature. A fact that they're now openly acknowledging by vulgarly banding the number of zeros in their respective box office collections. Having managed to bring tastes down to their level, I dare say, these people would be hit by a crisis of Kejriwalian proportions. If the audience tomorrow woke up to the fact that the recycled rubbish they've been swallowing all these years no longer satisfies, and started demanding fresh and original films. However, that is just the kind of utopian thinking Mr. Kejriwal himself indulges in. So where does an honest approach by an actor come into all of this? In this kind of scenario, is it not honest for the actor to take the money and run and think nothing of his participation in what may prove to be subversive? Or would it be honest to continue being taken to the cleaners by people making a different sort of film? The nebulous term different, by the way, has long been interpreted in the acting fraternity as shorthand for you're not going to be paid. So is an actor who rigorously does his riyaz, who does not give priority to the money and continues attempting all his life to hone his craft, an honest actor? Or should we call the transparent faces and the guileless behavior of Bresson's actors, or Falconetti, or the people who acted in Bicycle Thief, who had never acted before and never acted again? Or the kind of acting demanded by Brecht, where the character is to be consciously represented? Honest acting? I do not know. It is perhaps worth going into the origins of theatre here, just for a moment, and wondering whether there is still a connection between what we understand as theatre now and that ritual, which, according to a fascinating theory, originated with primeval man's need to plan the hunt. Those early attempts at communication, with someone playing the hunter, someone the deer which had been felled, someone the rabbit, someone the tiger, etc., must gradually, out of necessity, with people and animals being mock killed, have also included a dramatic and an emotional element. And certainly there were some who played the hunter or the hunted better than others. The actor was born. Religious connotations and an awed reverence attached itself to him centuries later, when religion was being aggressively marketed and complex texts, in order to be elucidated, had to be performed in temples for the benefit of largely illiterate congregations. Here again, there must have originated the concept of not only the stock actor, the stock character rather, but also of who was better than whom. And actors at that time must surely have been judged by their ability to communicate, not entertain. And gradually the better communicators would have acquired more fame, more celebrity, and taking certain human characteristics for granted, competitiveness must have resulted between actors. And actors' pay packets, one assumes, started becoming proportionate with their ability to hold people's attention. And thus was born the star. Now, being the most visible component of the presentation, it was the actor who garnered the bouquets as well as the brickbats. He became the face of this activity known as theatre. He became representative of it. He became a symbol of it, and unwittingly was also held responsible for it. Even today, it's the actor who most often hears the wah-wahs or has to put up with the taunts of kya bundle picture banaya, and not the people who are actually responsible for either. And often one hears the same thing said alternately about the same work. But I will not dwell even for a second on the absurd notion that an actor is responsible for the quality of the work he finds himself in. I will try instead to talk about what I feel are the reasons for this, by and large, abysmal output by film actors in India. I'm sorry I have to use the word. And try to get at the cause, and maybe that way lies a remedy of some kind. And when I say abysmal, I'm not knocking only the popular genre here. Very many films getting by with the reputation of being serious suffer massively from this flaw as well. And before someone here, succumbing to nostalgia, starts off with, in the old days we made better films, let me preempt that by saying that this dreadful acting and writing is not a new phenomenon. And the argument that this was the style of acting then cannot hold water, I'm afraid. Because if this was actually the style of acting then, how on earth did the central actors, some of them, achieve the refined restraint required in cinema the way they did? So we don't need to have magnifying glasses on our noses to perceive the vast gulf in the acting between our films and their films. So let's be done with the nostalgia and admit that it was the sensibility of the people who backed movies then that was responsible for our, by and large, shoddy output. And this sensibility sadly still holds sway and exerts an inexorable control over the making of most movies in our country. Iconoclastic as it may sound, it has to be said that even the, by and large, wonderful filmic works made in our country contain some supporting performances which are on the verge of being grotesque. And what bothers me is that films like Kaagaz Ke Phool and Do Bigha Zameen and Kabuliwala were made around the same time or even later than Bicycle Thief and Citizen Kane and Rashomon were made in other countries. And I need scarcely issue a testimonial to the level of performance achieved by the actors in the latter three. We just can't seem to break out of this proscenium mold that we've got stuck in. Apologies if I ruffle feathers by saying this, but I do think that too long we have put our heroes on a pedestal and they've gotten lonely up there. I think it's time we engaged with them and knew them for what they truly were and started to learn from their strengths and weaknesses, not just swagger in the glory they reflect or stoutly continue to defend their flaws. Maybe that way, instead of just worshipping them, we'll get to engage with them. Or at least prevent the pigeons from defecating on their heads. Or at least wipe it off when it happens. But let us not prostrate ourselves at their feet without learning the right things from them. Even a casual glance at the history of filmmaking in our country informs us that it was Maharashtrian, Parsi and Bengali entrepreneurs who first ventured into it. For different reasons, no doubt, but all three communities with more than a passing acquaintance with the theatre. Some of the earliest male stars, most of the earliest male stars in these silent ventures were either light-eyed, fair-complexioned Maharashtrian or Parsi gentlemen, whose possibly Aryan or Caucasian origins helped them pass off as Western, cinema then being considered a Western medium we had embraced. And similarly on the distaff side, there were either European or Saraswat Brahmin ladies, not only because of their white skin, but also because a woman performing on stage in Maharashtra was by then no longer a taboo.